The wheat stalks bent under Daniel's boots as he walked through the eastern field. Dawn light painted the sky orange and purple across Cascade Falls. He carried a repair kit for the irrigation system that kept breaking down. Farming on a frontier colony meant fixing everything yourself. Something massive had carved a trench through his crops. Daniel stopped walking. The damaged earth stretched for 200 meters, ending in a crater near his storage barn. Smoke rose from scorched soil. His heart pounded as he approached carefully. In the crater lay a creature from nightmare and legend combined. Scales the color of deep space reflected morning light. Wings spread wider than his entire house. Blood pooled beneath torn membrane and broken bones. The dragon's chest moved with shallow breaths. Daniel had seen skyborne dragons once during his military service. They ruled star systems with absolute power. One dragon could destroy entire fleets. This one looked young, barely adult size. Burns covered its body. Someone had hurt this creature badly. The dragon's eye opened. Yellow with a vertical pupil, it focused on Daniel with sharp intelligence. A low growl rumbled from its throat. Daniel raised both hands slowly. "Easy now, I'm not going to hurt you." He kept his voice calm and steady. The dragon tried to lift its head. Pain made it collapse back down. Its translator device hung damaged from a neck collar. Sparks flickered across cracked metal. Words came through broken and scattered. "Stay back, I am Wreath, Prince of the Skyborn, I will defend myself." "You're in no shape to defend anything." Daniel knelt at a safe distance. His medic training from the war kicked in automatically. "You've got burns, broken bones, and you're losing blood. Let me help." "Why would a human help me?" "Because you're hurt and you're on my land. That's reason enough." Wreath's eyes studied him for a long moment. The dragon had no strength left for fighting. It nodded once, a gesture of surrender that probably cost its pride dearly. Daniel ran back to his house for medical supplies. His hands shook as he grabbed everything he could carry. Treating a dragon was like treating a very large, very dangerous horse. Same basic principles. Keep the patient calm. Stop the bleeding. Prevent shock. He worked quickly. The burns needed special gel he kept for equipment fires. Broken wing bones required splints made from cargo straps. The bleeding came from deep cuts along Wreath's side. Daniel applied pressure and sealant patches designed for hull breaches. They worked on dragon scales too. Wreath hissed in pain but stayed still. The dragon watched Daniel's every movement with that unblinking yellow eye. "Where did you serve in the military?" The translator crackled the words. "Earth Defense Force, Medical Corps, saw action in the border conflicts." Daniel wrapped another bandage around torn membrane. "How did you know I was military?" "The way you move, the way you assess injuries without hesitation. You have seen combat." "Long time ago. I farm now, came out here to get away from all that." "Yet here you are, treating wounds again." Daniel smiled without humor. "Guess some skills you never lose." He finished the immediate treatment and sat back. Wreath's breathing had steadied. The worst of the bleeding had stopped. The dragon would live if infection didn't set in. "I need to move you before someone sees the crash site." Daniel pointed toward his barn. "Security patrols fly over twice a day. Can you walk?" "I will try." Getting Wreath to the barn took an hour of painful effort. The dragon could barely stand. Daniel supported as much weight as he could, which was impressive for a human. Wreath noticed this. Humans were stronger than most species gave them credit for. Inside the barn, Daniel cleared space among farming equipment. He spread tarps on the ground for Wreath to lie on. The dragon collapsed gratefully onto the makeshift bed. "Why are you doing this?" Wreath asked. "You know sheltering me is treason against the Galactic Assembly. They will punish you severely if discovered." Daniel checked the bandages one more time. "Out here on the frontier we have a saying, you help people who need help, don't matter who they are or where they come from. You needed help. I had the skills to provide it. Simple as that. Nothing is that simple. Everything has cost. Everything requires payment. Maybe in your world. In mine, sometimes folks just do the right thing. Reith had no response to that. The concept seemed completely foreign to him. In galactic politics, every action had calculation behind it. Every favor demanded repayment. The idea of helping without expectation confused the young dragon prince. Outside, engines hummed in the distance. Daniel moved to the barn door and looked up. A colonial security patrol passed overhead, scanning for debris from Reith's crash. Their sensors swept across the fields. Daniel stepped outside casually. He waved at the patrol like everything was normal. Just a farmer checking his morning crops. Nothing unusual here. The patrol continued on without stopping. He went back inside and found Reith watching him with something like wonder in that yellow eye. You just lied to your authorities to protect me. You committed treason without hesitation. I didn't lie, I just didn't tell them everything. There's a difference. Daniel grabbed a blanket and tossed it over Reith's most visible parts. Get some rest. Your body needs time to heal. I'll keep watch and make sure nobody finds you. I do not understand you, Daniel Carter. That's all right. You don't need to understand. You just need to heal up and get strong again. Reith closed his eye. Exhaustion and pain medicine pulled him towards sleep. Before unconsciousness took him completely, he spoke one more time. Thank you. Daniel nodded. He pulled up a chair and sat down with his rifle across his lap. Outside, the farm went about its normal business. Inside, a human protected a dragon prince. Neither of them knew yet how much this simple act of compassion would change everything. 3 days passed in careful routine. Daniel worked his fields during daylight hours while Reith rested in the barn. At night, he changed bandages and brought food. The dragon's wounds healed faster than expected. Skyborn biology was remarkable. Reith's translator worked better now after Daniel repaired some connections. They could hold real conversations instead of broken fragments. The dragon prince proved surprisingly curious about human life. Explain to me why you chose farming. Reith shifted his position carefully. His wings were still too damaged for folding properly. You had military skills. You could have pursued higher status positions. Daniel measured out grain for the next planting. Status doesn't mean much to me. After the war, I wanted peace and quiet. A place where the only thing trying to kill me was bad weather. Your military service was difficult. All military service is difficult. I saw friends die. I made calls that cost lives. After my commission ended, I came out here to find something different, something that builds instead of destroys. Reith made a sound like a sigh. I understand that desire more than you know. My entire life has been preparation for ruling. Every action calculated, every relationship transactional. Even my diplomatic mission was political theater. What happened up there? Who attacked you? The dragon's eye dimmed with anger and pain. I was traveling to negotiate a trade agreement. Standard diplomatic flight with full security. Someone sabotaged my ship's defenses before launch. When we reached the neutral zone, fighters ambushed us. Military-grade weapons. Professional execution. Your security team. Dead, all of them. I fought 3 attackers personally and damaged their ships before mine went critical. I crash-landed on the nearest habitable world. Pure chance brought me to your farm. Daniel stopped working and looked at Reith directly. Someone inside your own government tried to kill you. That kind of betrayal runs deep. You have powerful enemies. My father controls 17 star systems. When he dies, I inherit everything. Many would benefit from my death before that succession occurs. Cousins, rival houses, even some of my father's advisors who fear I will reform outdated policies. Sounds like a lonely way to live. It is the only life I have known. Skyborn nobility does not have friends. We have allies of convenience and enemies waiting for opportunity. Trust is weakness. Compassion is vulnerability. Power is the only currency that matters. Daniel threw a piece of dried meat to Wreath. The dragon caught it easily and swallowed. That's a terrible way to exist. No wonder your people stay isolated. Can't imagine living without trust. How can you trust so easily? You helped me without knowing anything about my character. I could be a criminal, a monster, dangerous to everyone around me. Could be, but you're not, I can tell. Daniel sat down on a hay bale. I've seen enough bad people to recognize good ones. You're scared and hurt and far from home, but you're not cruel. You thanked me even when you didn't have to. That tells me what I need to know. Wreath turned his massive head to study Daniel more carefully. Your species approaches the universe fundamentally different from mine. We build power through fear and dominance. You build it through cooperation and trust. I always believed our way was superior. Now I wonder. Both ways have strengths, but I've seen fear-based systems collapse fast when real trouble hits. Trust-based systems bend but rarely break. You speak from experience. Humans survived because we learned to work together. Earth is a death world by galactic standards. Everything there tried to kill us for millions of years. We couldn't outrun predators, couldn't outfight most of them, but we could out-cooperate anything else on the planet. We won by taking care of each other. This concept fascinated Wreath. He had studied human military capabilities during his education. Their tactics emphasized team coordination over individual strength. Their soldiers fought harder when protecting comrades than when pursuing glory. It made them unpredictable and dangerous despite their physical limitations. I have read reports about human military units. Your warriors bond intensely with squad mates. They will sacrifice themselves for each other without hesitation. My instructors called it irrational. It's not irrational. It's the most rational thing in the universe. If my squad knows I'll die for them, they'll die for me. That makes all of us stronger, makes us braver, makes us willing to face impossible odds. But what if they betray that trust? Then you deal with it. But most people won't betray real trust if you give them the chance to be trustworthy. Expecting betrayal usually guarantees you'll get it. Wreath went quiet for a long time. Outside, insects chirped in the growing darkness. Daniel lit a lamp and hung it from a barn beam. The warm light made Wreath's scales shimmer like stars. No one has ever protected me without obligation before. The dragon's voice was softer than usual. My guards are paid. My allies need political favor. My family requires my survival for dynasty continuation. But you have no reason to help me. You gain nothing. You risk everything. I gain the satisfaction of doing right. That's enough. Is it truly? You could lose your farm, your freedom, perhaps your life, all for a stranger from a species that has never done anything for humanity. How is that a fair exchange? Daniel smiled and shook his head. You're thinking about it wrong. I'm not helping you to get something back. I'm helping you because that's who I am. Because I couldn't live with myself if I walked away from someone who needed help. The universe doesn't always have to be a transaction. Wreath absorbed these words like they were completely revolutionary. In his world, everything was transaction. Power for loyalty, protection for service, alliance for advantage. The idea that someone could act from pure principle seemed almost magical. You are either the wisest person I have met or the most foolish. Probably a bit of both. Daniel stood and checked the barn door one more time. Get some rest. Your wings look better today. Another week and you might be able to fly short distances. And then you decide what comes next. But until you're healed, you're safe here. That's a promise. Wreath watched Daniel settle into his sleeping bag near the door. The human had been sleeping in the barn for 3 nights to keep watch, abandoning his own comfortable bed to guard a dragon he barely knew. Something shifted in Wreath's understanding of the universe that night. Maybe power was not the only thing that mattered. Maybe there were other kinds of strength worth pursuing. 2 weeks after the crash, things changed. A sleek warship landed at the colony spaceport just after dawn. Daniel saw it from his fields and felt his stomach drop. Ships that clean and dangerous only came for serious business. By afternoon, the whole colony knew. A Kryn mercenary named Commander Silas had arrived with full assembly authorization. He was hunting for something. Someone asked what. The answer spread fast: a missing skyborn prince. Daniel kept working his irrigation repairs like nothing was wrong. His neighbor Bate walked over from her adjacent farm. She was 70 years old and had lived on Cascade Falls since the first settlement. Not much got past her sharp eyes. "That's some serious hardware at the spaceport." She leaned on her walking stick and watched him work. "Military scanner arrays, combat team. They're looking for something important." "Heard about it, missing prince or something." Daniel kept his voice casual. "Probably crashed somewhere in the wilderness. Lots of empty land out here." "Funny thing, Jerry over at the grain depot said his sensors picked up a crash trajectory 2 weeks back. Said it pointed toward this sector. Your sector specifically." Daniel met her eyes steadily. "My fields are fine, no crashes here, just wheat and irrigation problems." Bates studied him for a long moment. She had known him for 5 years, watched him arrive broken from war and slowly rebuild himself through hard work. She knew when he was lying. "Daniel Carter, you're a terrible liar, always have been." He said nothing, just turned back to his work. "That burn pattern in your east field, the one you claimed was electrical fire. I've seen crash burns before. I'm old, not stupid." "Bate, please." "They're going to scan every farm." Sila's already started at the northern properties, working his way south systematically. He'll be here in 2 days maximum. Daniel's hand stopped moving. He turned to face her fully. "What are you going to tell them?" She tapped her walking stick against the ground twice. "Haven't decided yet. Sheltering a fugitive is serious business, but so is abandoning someone who needs help. My conscience is having a debate with my common sense. I couldn't just leave him there bleeding to death." "I know, that's what makes this so damn complicated." She sighed heavily. "Show me." Daniel's heart raced. This was the moment. Trust her or lose everything trying to hide it. He chose trust. They walked to the barn together. Daniel opened the door carefully. Inside, Reith had been listening to everything. The dragon rose to his full height as they entered. Even injured, he was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Bate froze, her walking stick clattered to the ground. "Sweet mercy." "This is Reith. He's the missing prince everyone's looking for." Daniel picked up her walking stick and handed it back. "I found him dying in my field. I did what I could." Reith inclined his head toward Bate with surprising grace. "Honored elder, I apologize for the danger my presence brings." "You can talk." Bate's voice came out as a whisper. "I can. I have been conversing with Daniel for 2 weeks. He is quite intelligent for a human. I mean no offense by that observation." "None taken." Bates' shock was giving way to something else. She looked between dragon and human. "You've been hiding a skyborn prince in your barn for 2 weeks. Do you have any idea how insane that is?" "Very insane," Daniel admitted, "but it was the right thing to do." "The right thing is going to get you killed. Get all of us killed maybe. Silas doesn't mess around. He'll tear this farm apart looking for evidence." Reith stepped forward carefully. His wounds had healed enough for movement but not for fighting. "I will surrender myself before I allow harm to come to this colony. Daniel's safety is my priority." "Your priority?" Bate raised an eyebrow at the dragon. "Since when do skyborn princes care about human farmers?" "Since one of them saved my life expecting nothing in return. Since I learned that wisdom comes in unexpected forms. Since I discovered that power without compassion is hollow." Bates stared at Reith for a long time. Then she laughed. It was a rough, weary sound. I've lived 70 years and I never thought I'd hear a dragon talk like that. You've been hanging around Daniel too long. He's infectious with his moral compass nonsense. It is not nonsense, Reith said firmly. It is perhaps the most important thing I have ever learned. Doesn't matter how important it is if we're all dead. Bate turned to Daniel. You've got maybe 48 hours before Silas gets here. His scanners will detect Reith even in this barn. You need a better plan. I've been thinking about the old cave system in the eastern mountains. Daniel pulled out a geological survey map. Colony records show extensive tunnels, natural geothermal heat, deep enough that scanners might not penetrate. That's a 12-kilometer trek through rough terrain. Can he make it? Reith spread his wings experimentally. They hurt but functioned. I can walk. I cannot fly yet, but I can travel on foot if necessary. Then you need to leave tonight. Silas works fast and he's thorough. He destroyed Tim's barn yesterday just because the man hesitated to answer questions. He won't be gentle with you, Daniel. What will you tell them? Daniel asked. Bate picked up her walking stick and headed for the door. I'll tell them I haven't seen anything unusual. I'll tell them you've been keeping to yourself like always. I'll tell them whatever buys you time to get gone. Why are you helping us? She stopped at the door and looked back. Because 40 years ago someone helped me when they didn't have to, saved my life during the colony's first winter. I never forgot that debt. Maybe it's time to pay it forward. She pointed at both of them. But if you get caught, I never saw anything. I'm too old for prison. Understood, thank you, Bate. She left without another word. Daniel and Reith looked at each other in the dim barn light. We move tonight. Daniel started gathering supplies. Storm system moving in around midnight, perfect cover. You have done too much already. I should go alone. You'll get lost. I know these mountains, plus you still need medical care. Daniel packed bandages and medicine. We're doing this together. Reith wanted to argue, but part of him felt relief. The thought of facing the wilderness alone in his weakened state was frightening. Having Daniel beside him made everything seem possible. When this is over, I will repay this debt. No debt, Reith. How many times do I have to tell you? This is what friends do. Friends, the word felt strange and wonderful to Reith. He tested it in his mind. Yes, Daniel was his friend, perhaps the first real friend he had ever had. Outside, clouds gathered on the horizon. The storm was coming right on schedule. In a few hours, they would run for the mountains. Two very different beings bound together by trust and circumstance. Neither of them knew that their friendship would soon change the entire galaxy. Thunder rolled across the sky as Daniel and Reith prepared to leave. Rain hammered the barn roof in sheets, perfect weather for disappearing. Daniel strapped a pack to his back filled with food, medicine, and survival gear. Reith tested his legs one more time. Walking hurt, but he could manage it. His wings folded tight against his body. Flying was still impossible, but at least they were healing properly. Ready? Daniel asked. As ready as I can be. They left through the barn's back door. Rain soaked them instantly. Daniel pulled up his hood and started walking. Reith followed close behind. Each step sent small jolts of pain through the dragon's healing body, but he made no complaint. The storm was their ally. It hid their movement and washed away tracks. It also grounded aerial patrols. Silas would not be scanning tonight. They had maybe 10 hours before anyone noticed they were gone. Progress was slow. Daniel knew the terrain, but darkness and rain made navigation difficult. Reith struggled with the uneven ground. Several times he stumbled on rocks hidden by mud. Daniel helped steady him each time. This is harder than I expected, Reith admitted after an hour. His breath came in heavy gasps. We can rest. There's an overhang about 2 kilometers ahead. We'll take shelter there. They pushed forward. The overhang turned out to be a small cave formed by ancient water erosion. Daniel helped Wreath inside and they collapsed against the stone wall. Both were exhausted and soaked. Daniel pulled out emergency rations. He handed half to Wreath. They ate in silence while rain pounded outside. Lightning lit the landscape in brief flashes. "Tell me about your homeworld," Daniel said eventually. "I've heard stories but never met anyone who actually lived there." Wreath's eyes took on a distant look. Skyhold Prime orbits a binary star system. The entire planet is mountains and sky. We build our cities on the highest peaks. From my family's palace, you can see 300 kilometers in every direction. Sounds beautiful. It is, but also lonely. The air is thin. Most species cannot survive there without breathing equipment. We evolved in those conditions. They shaped us into what we are: powerful, isolated, proud. Do you miss it? I miss the flying. There is nothing like catching thermal currents between the peaks, pure freedom. But I do not miss the politics, the constant maneuvering, everyone watching everyone else for weakness. Wreath shifted his position carefully. Do you miss Earth? Sometimes I miss forests. Real forests with old trees, but Earth is crowded now. Too many people, too much noise. I prefer the quiet out here. You chose isolation deliberately. I was born into mine. Perhaps that is why you handle it better. Lightning struck close. Thunder followed immediately. Both of them jumped. The storm was getting worse. We should keep moving. Daniel checked his compass. Cave system is still 6 kilometers away. If we push hard, we can make it by dawn. They struggled back into the storm. The next 2 hours tested them both. Wreath's strength was fading fast. Daniel found himself supporting more of the dragon's weight as they walked. It was like trying to help a truck move uphill. Finally, Wreath collapsed. His legs simply gave out. He lay in the mud breathing hard. I cannot continue. My body needs rest. Daniel looked around frantically. No shelter nearby. No place to hide. If Seelas started scanning at first light, they would be completely exposed. They needed to reach the caves. Come on, just a little further. I am done, Daniel. Leave me here. Save yourself. Absolutely not. Daniel pulled Wreath's arm over his shoulder. We're doing this together, remember. He started dragging the dragon forward through pure stubbornness. Wreath was twice his size and 10 times his weight. It should have been impossible. But humans evolved on a death world. They learned to push past impossible. Wreath tried to help. He got his legs under him and pushed. Between Daniel's determination and his own effort, they moved forward, meter by meter, step by painful step. The sky began lightening. Dawn was coming. Daniel spotted the cave entrance just as rain started to ease. They were going to make it. Then he saw the markings on the cave walls. Ancient symbols carved into stone. Skyborn writing. Thousands of years old by the look of the weathering. Wreath, look at this. The dragon lifted his head. His eyes widened in shock. That is my clan's marking, but that is impossible. My people have never visited this world before my crash. Apparently they did, long time ago. Daniel helped Wreath into the cave entrance. Inside, more carvings covered every surface. They told a story in pictures and words. Wreath began reading aloud as they moved deeper. His voice filled with wonder and confusion. These are records from the War of Burning Skis, a conflict 10,000 years past. My ancestors fled here. They were refugees. Refugees? I thought Skyborn were always powerful. We are now, but in ancient times we nearly went extinct. Another species hunted us. We fled across the galaxy seeking sanctuary. According to these writings, we found it here. The cave opened into a large chamber. More carvings showed skyborn dragons working alongside primitive humans, hunting together, building together, protecting each other. The humans who lived here gave us shelter. Wreath's voice was barely a whisper. They fed us, healed our wounds, helped us survive until we could fight back against our enemies. Just like I did for you. Just like you did, this has happened before. My people have received human compassion before, but I never knew. None of us knew. Daniel found more carvings deeper in. These told a darker story. Looks like after your people got strong again, other galactic powers demanded you abandon the humans, said it was beneath skyborn dignity to associate with primitives. And we did. Wreath's voice carried shame. We left them, abandoned the very people who saved us. The records show they died out or left the planet. We erased this history from our official archives. Why would you hide something like this? Because it showed weakness. It showed we needed help from a lesser species. Better to forget it entirely than admit such vulnerability. They moved to the back of the chamber. There, Daniel found something remarkable. Ancient skyborne technology built into the cave wall, still powered by geothermal energy. Medical equipment designed for treating dragon injuries. This changes everything. Wreath stared at the equipment. You did not just save me, Daniel. You repeated history. Humans have now saved Skyborn twice. My people owe yours a debt we can never repay. Still not keeping score, Wreath. I know, that is what makes it matter even more. Daniel activated the medical station. Ancient but functional. Get in there, let's finish healing you properly. As Wreath settled into the healing chamber, Daniel noticed something else. The storm outside had stopped. Dawn light filtered into the cave entrance. They had made it. But somewhere behind them, Silas was beginning his hunt. The real test was just beginning. The healing chamber hummed with ancient power as Wreath slept inside. Daniel explored deeper into the cave system while he waited. The historical records covered every wall. Thousands of years of forgotten history written in stone. He learned that humans and Skyborn had once been close allies. They built settlements together, shared knowledge, created art that blended both cultures. Then galactic politics destroyed everything. The Skyborn chose power over friendship. They abandoned their human allies to gain status in the larger galaxy. The humans who lived here tried to continue alone, but without Skyborn protection, other species raided their settlements. Disease and famine followed. Within 2 generations, the human population collapsed. The survivors left the planet or died trying. This world stayed empty for thousands of years until human colonists rediscovered it. Daniel felt anger reading these records, not at Wreath, who was just a child when he heard the official version of history, but at the system that erased such important truth, that taught an entire species to value power over loyalty. His radio crackled. He had been monitoring colonial frequencies since leaving the farm. Now Bates' voice came through urgently. Daniel, if you're listening, Silas knows. He found evidence at your farm. Boot prints too large for human, scorched earth patterns. He's bringing scanning equipment to the mountain region. You have maybe 3 hours. Daniel's heart sank. 3 hours was not enough time. Wreath needed at least 6 more hours in the healing chamber to fully recover. They had to make a choice. Run now with Wreath still weak, or stay and face Silas. He went back to check on Wreath. The dragon's eyes were open inside the chamber. He had heard the radio transmission. We need to leave. Wreath's voice came through the chamber speakers. I can fight if necessary, even at partial strength. Fighting Silas means killing him and his entire team. That's not who we are. Then what do you suggest? Daniel thought hard. Running was pointless. They could not outpace military scanners. Fighting would make things worse. That left only one option. Face Silas directly and hope reason won out over orders. We wait here. When he arrives, we talk to him. Show him these caves, share this history. Maybe it changes things. You are betting our lives on maybe. I'm betting our lives on the truth being powerful enough to matter. This history shows that humans and Skyborn can be allies, that we have been allies before. Maybe that's worth something. Wreath considered this. It is a terrible plan. It relies entirely on the mercy and wisdom of a mercenary who is paid to capture or kill me, but I trust your judgment." 2 hours passed. Daniel kept monitoring the radio. Colonial Administrator was arguing with Silas about jurisdiction. Bate was stalling somehow, claiming she needed to file official complaints about property damage. Every delay bought them minutes. Finally, scanning equipment detected the cave's energy signature. Silas and his team approached from 3 directions. Professional military tactics. Daniel watched them on his portable scanner. "They're here." He helped Wreath out of the healing chamber. The dragon was not fully healed but much stronger. His wings could spread properly now. "Ready?" "No, but I trust you." They walked to the cave entrance together. Silas stood 50 meters away with 6 armed soldiers. All weapons pointed directly at them. The mercenary commander wore full combat armor. His reptilian Kryn features showed no emotion. "Prince Wreath, you are wanted for questioning regarding matters of galactic security. The human will be detained as an accomplice to treason." "Commander Silas," Wreath stepped forward calmly, "before you take us into custody, I ask that you examine the historical records inside this cave system. They contain information relevant to current events." "I have no interest in ancient history. My orders are clear." "Your orders are based on lies." Daniel moved to stand beside Wreath. "This cave proves that Skyborn and humans have been allies before. That cooperation between our species is not only possible but has historical precedent. Whoever sent you to kill Wreath is trying to hide that truth." Silas hesitated. He was a mercenary but also a professional. New information always mattered in complex political situations. "Show me." They led him inside. His soldiers kept weapons ready, but Silas walked ahead examining the carvings. His translator rendered the ancient Skyborn script into his native language. The more he read, the more his expression changed. "This changes the political calculation significantly." Silas touched the walls showing humans and Skyborn working together. "If this information becomes public, it undermines the entire basis for current galactic hierarchy." "Exactly." Wreath's voice was firm. "Someone tried to kill me because I was starting to question old policies, because I wanted to reform how Skyborn interact with other species. This proof shows my people have forgotten our own history. We were saved by humans once. Now a human has saved me again. The pattern demands acknowledgement." Silas studied them both carefully. "My employers will not be pleased if I return empty-handed. They paid substantial amount for your death, Prince Wreath." "Then perhaps you should question who your employers truly are and what they fear." Wreath stood tall despite his injuries. "I am heir to 17 star systems. I have resources that far exceed whatever they paid you. Work for me instead. Help me expose this conspiracy." "You ask me to betray a contract, to switch sides based on historical records and philosophy. I ask you to choose the winning side." Wreath's eyes glowed with power. The healing chamber had restored not just his body but awakened abilities dormant in his bloodline. "The old order is crumbling. Those who cling to it will fall with it. Those who embrace change will shape what comes next." Silas was quiet for a long time. His soldiers waited for orders. Daniel barely breathed. Finally, the Kryn commander lowered his weapon. "I will need to examine these records in detail, verify their authenticity. If they prove genuine, we may need to renegotiate terms of my contract." Relief flooded through Daniel. Not a victory yet, but not immediate death either. "There is more you should know." Wreath activated his personal recorder. "I have evidence from my ship showing who sabotaged my defenses. High-ranking assembly officials. When this information goes public, it will cause political upheaval across multiple systems." "This is far above my pay grade." Silas shook his head. "You are involving me in events that could reshape the galaxy." "Yes, that is exactly what is happening." Wreath looked at Daniel. thanks to one human farmer who decided that saving a life mattered more than politics. He has set in motion something far larger than either of us anticipated. Silas turned to Daniel. You do realize you have just become the most important human in recent galactic history. Your simple act of compassion may trigger the collapse of governmental structures that have existed for millennia. Daniel shrugged. I just helped someone who needed it, didn't think it would get this complicated. That is what makes it powerful. Silas actually smiled. You acted without calculation, without thought of consequence, pure principled action. It is so rare in galactic politics that no one knew how to respond to it. The radio crackled again. This time it was Colonial Administrator. Commander Silas, I am receiving urgent messages from Galactic Assembly. They are demanding immediate report on your operation. Silas looked at Reith and Daniel. Decision time. Tell them I found nothing. Search continues in other sectors. Daniel and Reith both exhaled in relief. The immediate danger was over, but the larger battle was just beginning. News spread faster than anyone anticipated. Silas did not work for Reith, but he did not work against him either. He simply stepped aside and let events unfold naturally. That was enough. Someone in the colonial administration leaked the cave discovery to independent media. Within hours, images of the ancient carvings circulated across the galactic network. Scholars and historians rushed to verify their authenticity. Every examination confirmed the same conclusion. The records were genuine. Humanity had saved the Skyborn species from extinction. The Skyborn had abandoned their saviors for political gain. This truth could not be buried again. Reith's evidence about the assassination attempt emerged simultaneously. 3 high-ranking Assembly officials caught planning his murder. Their motive was clear. They feared his reform agenda would reduce their power. Better to kill one progressive prince than allow him to change ancient systems. The scandal exploded across hundreds of worlds. Protests erupted in major galactic hubs. Younger species demanded reform. Older species resisted change. The careful balance of galactic politics shattered. Through it all, Daniel just wanted to go home to his farm. You cannot simply return to farming. Reith stood beside him outside the cave. His wounds had fully healed now. He was magnificent, every inch the powerful sky ruler he was meant to be. You have become a symbol, the human who sheltered a dragon, the bridge between species. People need to see you. I'm not a symbol. I'm just a farmer who helped someone, that's all. That is everything. Reith spread his wings. They glowed in the sunlight. You showed the galaxy that cooperation is possible, that compassion transcends species barriers, that the old hierarchies are not inevitable. The Galactic Assembly summoned both of them to testify. They traveled together on Reith's newly assigned diplomatic vessel. Security teams surrounded them constantly now, not to imprison them but to protect them. Both had become too valuable to risk losing. The assembly chamber held representatives from 300 species. Daniel had never seen so many different life forms in one place. Some walked, some flew, some existed as energy patterns in containment fields. All of them watched as he and Reith entered. Reith spoke first. His voice carried authority earned through suffering and growth. I stand before you as proof that we have forgotten our own history, that we have built our civilization on selective memory. The Skyborn owe humanity a debt that spans millennia. It is time we acknowledge this truth. He presented the evidence, the cave records, the assassination conspiracy, the systematic erasure of human Skyborn alliance from official archives. Each revelation caused shock waves through the chamber. Then Daniel spoke. He kept it simple because that was his nature. I'm not here to accuse anyone. I'm here to say that we can do better, all of us. We can choose cooperation over competition. We can value life over power. We can remember that we're all just trying to survive in a big, dangerous universe. Maybe doing that together is smarter than doing it alone. The speech was not elegant or sophisticated, but its simple honesty cut through political rhetoric. Representatives who had prepared complex arguments found themselves reconsidering basic assumptions. The Assembly voted to investigate historical records across multiple species. What they found shocked everyone. Humanity had helped dozens of species over thousands of years, usually during crises when those species were weak. Humans would appear, offer aid without asking for payment, then leave once the crisis passed. Other species had forgotten these debts or deliberately erased them. Human compassion was dangerous to hierarchical systems built on power and domination. Acknowledging human aid meant acknowledging that power was not the only thing that mattered. But now the truth was undeniable, documented, verified, impossible to ignore. Reform movements erupted across the galaxy. Young members of dozens of species demanded new approaches. They called for cooperative networks instead of hierarchical control. They pointed to humanity's model of mutual aid as an alternative to traditional power structures. The old order resisted. 3 assembly officials who had tried to kill Wreath faced trial. Their defense was simple. They were protecting the system. Wreath's reforms would have weakened established authority. Better to kill one prince than allow chaos. The court disagreed, found them guilty, sentenced them to exile rather than execution. Even in justice, the new philosophy of mercy over harshness began to take hold. 6 months after the cave discovery, Wreath was summoned home. His father was dying. He would soon inherit 17 star systems. His first act as Sky Ruler would set the tone for his entire reign. Before leaving, he visited Cascade Falls one last time. He found Daniel in his wheat fields, fixing the same irrigation system that had been broken the day they met. "You could have any position in my government." Wreath landed gently to avoid damaging crops. Chief Advisor, Ambassador, Minister of Cultural Exchange. Name it and it is yours. "I appreciate that, but I'm happy here." Daniel wiped sweat from his face. "Besides, you don't need me in your government. You learned what you needed to learn." "What did I learn?" "That power is a tool, not a goal. That strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. That sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. You'll be a good ruler, Wreath. Better than your father. Better than any Sky Ruler before you. Because a human farmer taught me compassion. Because you were willing to learn." They stood together in the wheat field. Dragon Prince and human farmer. Unlikely friends who had changed the galaxy without meaning to. "I will visit when I can," Wreath promised. "And my systems will always be open to humans. We will rebuild the alliance my ancestors destroyed. This time it will last. Just remember, it's not about grand gestures or political alliances. It's about seeing someone who needs help and deciding to help them. Everything else follows from that." Wreath bowed his head, a gesture of respect from a Sky Ruler to a farmer. Then he launched into the air and flew toward his waiting ship. Daniel watched until the dragon was just a speck against the sky. Then he turned back to his irrigation system. The wheat needed water. The work never stopped on a farm. But sometimes Daniel would pause and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there, his friend was changing the galaxy, making it a little bit better, a little bit kinder, proving that compassion was not weakness but the greatest strength of all. And it had started here, in a wheat field on a backwater colony world, with one human who decided that helping someone was more important than playing it safe. Sometimes the smallest acts create the largest ripples. Sometimes saving one life means changing everything. Daniel smiled and went back to work. His crops needed tending. That was enough purpose for any life.